Welcome everyone to another episode of Bryno's Homebrews here on Bryno's World. Yes, I'm doing another beer video just after I finished the last one, but this one is a very, very special one. Because you'll notice I'm indoors, not outdoors, because I'm only making a 1 gallon batch of beer and I don't need to waste a lot of gas just on something that small. It's also special because I'm trying a completely different method of homebrewing, something I've only tried a couple times but not to this degree. This is the brew in a bag method, which is a sort of form of all grain homebrewing, which means I'm not using any extract at all. As you can see, I've got all my grains here. 4 pounds of 2-row malt, which is just a basic, not really flavorless, but just sort of a base. It's a base malt is what they call it, just enough to get the sugars in to convert the alcohol and such. And 2 types of grain that I'm using for flavor and coloring. I've got 3 ounces of chocolate malt and 2 ounces of roasted barley. Now this is enough for a 1 gallon batch, and if you can't tell by the type of malt I'm using, I'm planning on making a stout. But not any ordinary stout. I mean, well, you can read from the title above. I'm going to make a ghost pepper stout. I've seen ghost pepper beers in production in various places, including one just south of here in Cincinnati. But I thought I could take a crack at it myself and try it using a homebrew method. Now, one important thing with brewing a bag and with any kind of all grain brewing is keeping the temperature very, very consistent. In fact, for this beer, I'm going to try and keep it at 153 degrees while the grains are steeping for about an hour and a half. How am I going to do that? Simple, with this device here on top. You may recognize this as a sous vide machine. If you don't know, sous vide is a type of method of cooking where you would vacuum seal the piece of meat you're trying to cook, steak, chicken, whatever, and you would literally cook it exactly to the temperature that you want, say 165 degrees for chicken. You'd put the vacuum sealed chicken in the water. This device will heat the water exactly to 165 and keep it there, and you can literally leave it in there all day, and by the time you get back home from work or whatever, it's done and you're ready to eat. A lot of people also use sous vide for home brewing, which is one of the reasons why I got this in the first place, and this is going to be my first time using sous vide for homebrew, so fingers crossed that it goes well. I've got high hopes for this, but I've never tried it before, so a little bit trepidatious about that, but let's just get started and not waste any more time. First things first, let's get some water into this 3 gallon stainless steel container here. First things first, I'm going to put 1 gallon of water in here. Now I'm going to get my grains into here, making a point to stir them as much as possible so that they don't clump. We want to extract as much sugar from these grains as we can. All right, now 4 pounds of 2-row. First the chocolate. Now the roasted barley. And now I'm going to try and top as much as I can with another gallon of water. Another gallon of water. This should loosen stuff up significantly. Again, making sure the bag's wrapped around the sous vide device so that the grains don't get clumped up in with this. So now let's plug it in. So the temperature of the water right now is at 73.1 degrees Fahrenheit. We want to get that up to, or down to, in this case, 153. And the time, I'm going to set this to 90 minutes. I'm guessing it's going to start doing the 90 minutes as soon as it gets to the right temperature. So here we go. The motor is now going. The water is heating. And the heat, just at this right temperature, 150 degrees, is just enough to get the grains. It's just enough to extract sugar from the grains here and also extract some color from the specialty grains. So I'm going to let this go 90 minutes, maybe probably a couple hours to let the water get heated up to the point. Then we'll come back for the next step. Okay, quick update here. You may have noticed some turbulence in that last time lapse there. I think what happened was my 3-gallon pot was too small for this batch here, because what was happening was my sous vide machine was kind of either snagging up or not getting enough water flowing through it, and it was erroring out. So I've upgraded to my 4-gallon pot here, and I created a little bit of separation between the sous vide machine and the bag with a little broiler tin for my toaster oven that I don't really use anymore. So just create some separation between the sous vide machine and the brew in a bag to allow for some more movement between the water and everything. So everything seems to be back on track right now, so let's get back to brewing. Okay, so the water, the wort, the beer in potentia has been simmering for about 90 minutes at 153 degrees. I'm just now raising the temperature to 170 degrees. This is a step called mashing out. Now normally this would be done on a burner to get it as hot as possible, as quickly as possible, to stop the enzymes from converting any more of the raw grain into sugars and dissolving them into the water. It's also a step to try to get as much of the sugars into the water as possible, so I'm going to let this go until it reaches 170 degrees, and then we're going to go to our next step. Okay, we've gotten the wort to the mash out temperature of 170 degrees, and so now we're going to take this grain out and try and squeeze out as much of the wort or sugars from the leftover grains into the water as we can. We want to get it as much as possible to make it as efficient as possible. So to help me with that, I've got this grill grate here that I'm going to lay on top of this this pot, and using my bare hands, which is going to hurt a lot because it's going to be hot, I'm just going to try and squeeze everything back into the pot, get it as sugary as possible so we can get the ABV as high as possible, because this is going to be, at least I hope, an imperial stout. So let's get to squeezing. Just let whatever drain out naturally. That'll put the grate back on. Ouch. Ow. I got a better idea. Let's take the top of this brew bucket. Oh yeah, that's a lot easier. I think that's as good as it's going to get. Time to take these grains, discard them, and then get with the next step of the beer making. And that next step is something that should be familiar to anyone who's seen my homebrew videos the last couple times. I'm going to bring the water back up to a boil, which shouldn't take too long since this is already pretty hot. And then boil the beer, put the hops in as usual, and then this should be familiar to anyone who's seen it. Okay, the boil is now done. Now I'm going to try and get this cool as quickly as possible, and it's going to take a little longer than I'm used to because I was an idiot and forgot to get some ice. So I'm just going to give this somewhat of a water bath in my sink and change out the water every now and then to just get this down to room temperature. Once I do that, I'm going to pitch my yeast in, get some gravity readings, and we'll be good to go. Okay, the beer is almost at the point where it's ready for pitching the yeast in, but it's at this point that I just remembered I forgot to add a very critical ingredient to the beer. See, I put in almost all the ingredients necessary. I used Fuggles hops, a whole ounce for the entire batch, used half an ounce at 45 minutes, quarter ounce at 15 plus some Irish moss, and then another quarter ounce of hops for 5 minutes. My plan initially was to put in half a ghost pepper at that 5-minute mark, and just so we can get the flavor of the pepper, and then the other half in the secondary. Well, I forgot to add the ghost pepper, so I'm just going to add half of it right now and just let it steep as much of the flavor as it can. Paring knife. So now, here comes the first half of the ghost pepper. Ploink into the beer. Okay, the beer off screen has chilled down to room temperature, so let's get it into this 2-gallon fermenter and start fermenting. Okay, that's all the water filtered through the strainer. The trub's gone, but it's a little short of a gallon, so... Now, you're not normally supposed to do this with all grain brewing, but I didn't use as much water as I probably should have, so I'm going to top it off to 1 gallon. Alright. Didn't have to top it off by much, but let's see. A little more. There we go, that's good. So, here's our wort. Now let's get some readings. Ladle some of this into my test tube. So let's see how well this did. Oh, I got a very, very high gravity here. This is going to be a very, very, very thick beer. I'm going to call it 1.106. And a temperature reading. A precise temperature reading of 75 degrees Fahrenheit on the button. That is 23.9 degrees Celsius. And because this was a 1-gallon batch, I didn't want to waste a liquid yeast on, so I just got a normal dry yeast, a normal safe ale yeast that's used for American beers. And now to inoculate our wort. Alright. Get the top on here. Get the airlock in place. And there we go. We have a brewing vessel right here ready to go using all grain brewing, or at least brew in a bag. So like I've been wanting to do for a long time. And with the sous vide machine, which gives me even more precise control over the temperature, which is one of the hard things to do with any kind of all grain brewing. Now, just to give a little bit of info, when I recalculate the gravity because of the temperature, it would recalibrate to about 1.107 due to the slightly higher temperature of the beer. Which means if every single sugar fermented into alcohol, which it won't, it would be at a whopping 14% ABV. But I don't think we're going to get anywhere close to that. I think we're going to get above 10, definitely above 10, maybe 11, but that means there's going to be a lot of alcohol in there, which means the ghost pepper that we're going to put in the secondary is going to add a lot of heat to this beer. Will it be enough to set things on fire? I don't think so, but we'll find out in about a month. Well, that'll do it for another episode of Bryno's Homebrews here on Bryno's World. I'll thank y'all very much for watching. If you got ideas for things I can make on this channel, whether it's food, beer, or anything else, leave a comment down below. Otherwise, don't forget to like and share this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Click the bell icon if you haven't to be notified of future videos. You know the drill. Once again, thanks for watching, and have yourself a good one.